Hi everyone, it's Chelle from Chelle Crochet. Welcome to my March 2024 crochet update. Let's talk some finished objects and maybe some whips.
Hey everyone, just popping in with a quick request. You probably don't know this, but my channel is not monetized, and what keeps happening to me, because I'm generally doing videos once a month, is that the subscriber count goes up by 20 or 30 people and goes right back down. So in about a year and a half, I've only gained about 100 people. So if you could just make sure that you're subscribed to my channel, that would really help me out a lot. And let anybody else who you think might want to know about that. That'd be great. Thanks guys.
Hi everyone, it's Chelle. How are you today? I hope you're all doing well. Today is Sunday, March 31st. Happy Easter to all those who are celebrating. I thought I'd get this recorded quickly before we get up to our Easter activities. Gonna go see Mom later, and yeah, let's just get into it. I know I have a bunch of clips, and the first one's gonna take you all the way back to March the 1st. So let's have a look. Good morning, everybody. Today is Friday, March the 1st. And we got our new square for Jade and Stitch's 2024 calendar blanket, Magical Granny's Cupboard, and it is a Jacob's Ladder square. I've never done Jacob's Ladder before, and I have been planning to do this scarf pattern that Jada put out a while ago. So I am just going through that video, and I got my setup done. I am using Premier Puzzle yarn in the colorway Cryptic, and full disclosure, when I started to go through all the clips I had for this month, I already had 40 minutes worth of clips. So that gives you a little bit of a sneak peek into some of the editing I do. I mostly record those clips throughout the month so that I can remind myself of what my process was for making some of the things, because I like to share that. And the very first project that I started this month, I haven't even worked on in weeks. So I had started, because Jada released her next square for the Magical Granny's Cupboard Crochet Along, the calendar blanket for 2024, I wanted to practice doing the Jacob's Ladder, and I had never done it before. So I hopefully was able to keep a tiny bit of the start of that scarf, but I have not worked on it at all. And I may just frog it and make a set in that yarn for Shoebox Charities and not do the Jacob's Ladder because it takes longer. But it at least helped me to do the squares. Hello everyone. Today is Friday, March the 8th, and I am working on my Jada and Stitch's 2024 calendar blanket, which is the Magical Granny's Cupboard. And it is full of different granny squares. We are on the third one already, and it is a Jacob's Ladder granny square, and this one is sending me for a loop. And Jada did a full live the other day. I was working, so I'm just catching up to it now. But I started my first one, and I'm 4 rows in, and I find that it is helping me to link up these chains after a while, but it's not going too bad. This will be another blanket that will go off to Project Linus at the end of the year. Anyway, just a little note that, you know, this one is a tough one for me, and everything I try and crochet isn't super easy, but I didn't want to shy away from this one, so I'm giving it my best shot. I'm back. I'm almost done, and look what was happening to me. This color change, which is, you know, it would be fine, except it's also a knot, which really bugs me. So rather than put up with that, I just pulled my other cake out, and the outside of my cake, I got super lucky, is this color. So I'm gonna grab that and tie it in instead. If I'm gonna have to tie it in, I might as well color control it. If I don't, I'll let it come out of the cake. But that's just like a little strat that I'll use sometime, especially if you end up with one of these. I'm gonna be sewing those 2 ends in anyway. I might as well sew it in the color that will look the best. Also, because I'm halfway through the last round on that, and that way the square will be solid. So I have my 2 squares. Apparently I didn't sew my ends in on the second one, or the first one maybe. I think it was this one first. And then, yeah. So practicing with the stitch pattern first is always something I like to do just to get myself familiar. and it did help me quite a bit doing this, as did some of Jada's tips about using stitch markers, especially in the corners. The middle one, I didn't find it as necessary once I figured out where that stitch belonged. But yeah, there are now already 6 squares for this crochet along for this year. And you can see how the blanket's going to be mixed of all these colors that are part of, it's over there on the couch, the Blue Hawaiian colorway in Karen Big Cakes. So I don't need to talk about that too much. And if you guys have any questions, the current month's tutorial for the calendar blanket will always be linked in the description box below. Okay, let's see what's next. Hey everyone, can you see them? My extra special wonderful blanket model. I didn't get a chance to get a picture of this laying out before I packed it away to go to Project Linus. You can probably see the blankets at the bottom of the screen. Anyway, that is the final version of that corner to corner blanket with a nice substantial border on it. And that is hubby shaking it and trying to wave to you in essence behind it. Are you going to show your face? There he is. Back to our regularly scheduled programming. Okay, so you just saw a clip of hubby holding on to that corner to corner blanket that I was working on last month. And I did finish the border. And as I was finishing the border, I was having a little bit of struggles with the corners. I didn't like how the corners were turning out, and I talked about that in the video. So here are the corner to corner blocks that I worked on. But before I show them to you, there's one more clip here. We're gonna call this Creativity Meets Inspiration. So these are my loops and threads yarns that I've had for a while that I wanted to do corner to corner blocks and assemble as a blanket. So the block is about 13 by 13, and it's also 17 blocks across and squared. So I work to 17 and then I start decreasing because it's a square, and that's to use up an entire skein of these. So I had 2 of each color. And one of the reasons I'm here today is that I have a little pet peeve of, so you go around your corner to corner blocks. It's probably easier to see on this one. And you put your chain 2 single crochet in between each block. And then just like in the corner for a modern granny, you do your single crochet, chain 2 in the corner here, single crochet. I find when you go to put your next round on and you put 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets here, this corner starts to get very pointy, and I don't like that. So when I was working on my border for the blanket I showed last month, yesterday, I had an idea. So this is kind of what I'm talking about. So on this C2C, I've already gone down a hook size, and I've already reduced from double crochets to half double crochets. And if you follow the block stitch or modern granny pattern exactly, you get kind of more of this pointy look on your corners where it's distorting the corner. And so playing with it on this guy here, okay, I put a double crochet and then a double crochet 2 together and then another double crochet, so that I have 3 stitches, but I can kind of like blend the stitches a little bit and not have such a big gap. And so from this side, it kind of looks like 2 and then 2 in the corner, chain 2, 2 in the corner. But over this, it's only 3 stitches. So if you're coming back to do further rounds of your single crochet, chain 2 in between, you're gonna be fine, and you're gonna still be set up properly for that. And I'm gonna try this from now on, especially on full blanket borders. It doesn't so much matter for the squares, but I do like it better because it just looks like a normal corner. This looks more like how a granny square would look if you're increasing it. It doesn't look distorted. To me, this one looks distorted. So, and that's, like I said, already going down. So the smaller stitch you use, the less distorted it's gonna look. With a single crochet, it'll look even better than this looks. But I just think it's too many stitches. So I am not going to take this border out. It's just fine for a Tina Project Linus to enjoy this very warm blanket. I can attest to that, as it's been on my lap as I'm crocheting. Hey everyone, just a little update on my C2C blocks. I decided, because of figuring out the border earlier this month, to figure out how I was going to make this colorway work. So this is the one I had that was variegated. Not only is it variegated, it is much thinner yarn than all of my other impeccable speckled stripes I had This is one that I have on the go in my office. And this is just some of the yarn because there's too much of the plain red. It's a nice thicker 4-weight acrylic. I don't know. It reminds me of regular Impeccable. I haven't had much of Impeccable in a couple of years, but it's definitely thicker. This was just called Impeccable, and it happened to be a variegated colorway. So when I got them on clearance, I had mixed it up as the same as Speckled Stripes. Speckled Stripes. Anyway, to make it work, I had actually, Happy was at Michael's and noticing a lot of things were on sale. Loops and Threads, Soft Classic. So that's the new way they're branding their basic line of yarn. So I decided to pick up some colors of it and see if I can make it work. So I'm pretending that this is my speckle, and I have a mint and a teal for my stripes, and I just made 2 of these. And they come out of the skeins differently, so I just striped them differently on purpose. And I think it worked out just fine to go into this blanket. Gave me a chance to come back and try my little border thing again to make sure I'm not getting my corners too wonky. Okay, so this project you're gonna see off and on probably the whole year. Hopefully I'll finish it up maybe like early fall or something like that and put it all together, because I like to work on modular projects in the summertime. And these are the very first 2 I did. And even back when I started this, I had turned one of these skeins into as many granny squares as it would make. And then I decided, because I saw Carrie Penny from the Happy Crafty Homemaker making so many quarter to quarter blocks, that I should really try doing that instead, because I've never done it. So I took apart all those granny squares and I put it back together as a C2C block. And so one of these, when I was making them, had a ton of ends on it. I don't know which one, but this is just how, at least one of these is how the yarn comes out of the skein for these old Loops and Threads speckled stripes. So now it seems like Loops and Threads has divided those out. So they have Loops and Threads speckled and Loops and Threads striped. But this was clearance, like I want to say 2020. It was ages ago. And I had got these for $2 a skein. They're only 85 grams though, so they're not super huge. And this is a thicker yarn, Loops and Threads. Interestingly enough, the other one is not as thick. Hang on, we'll get to that. And I had done this colorway in the black. So these have all gotten their border rounds in the month of March. This one probably got started in February and finished in March entirely, but they all got the border once I figured that thing out. We'll talk about that in a sec. And so then I finally grabbed that. This was the one I got that was just called Loops and Threads, and it wasn't stripes or speckled, and it was so much thinner, which is really unfortunate, but hey, I made it work. And hubby was at Michael's for some of his stuff, found me the, what are they calling it now? I think I think I said the yarn in the clip, the basic classic soft something. They changed Craft Smart to Loops and Threads, and they were on, I guess the regular $4.99, they were on for $3.49 for the 198 gram skeins, so the pretty big skeins. So here in Canada, the best deal in town used to be Bernat Premium at Walmart when it was $3.97, and that's long been raised. I think they charge like $5.27 for it at Walmart these days. But in terms of Michael's, the Craft Smart was obviously a good deal when they had it, and now they have this one. So when it goes 30% off, it's still a good deal. And I really liked it. It's nice and thick, and still very pleasant to work with. So this was like, I think they call this one Reef, and they may just call this one Mint. But this is a nice teal, and these colors were kind of in here. What's looking a little bit more green in the variegated is because there's this lime green in there, but the actual color is very close to the teal. So I just striped these myself and added the border to make them kind of go with the other stuff that I have going on here. And I think it'll work just fine, because whoever ends up with this blanket is not going to know about these yarn woes we all have from time to time. Anyway, so those are done. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares done with their border row. And so 3 of these squares basically got made this month, and all the borders got done. Plus I figured out my corners. So like I had said, I think I showed this already, but I'm doing basically a double crochet 2 together in between these two, so that I only put 3 double crochets total for the corner in the last chain 2 space before the corner and part of the chain 2 space, so that it's not getting too many stitches squeezed in there. Okay, And then this is one that I just started. This is the next colorway. And now, because of figuring out how to use that yarn that didn't belong, and I made it belong, so now it's part of the family, I will have 12 of these. So I'll measure, I think I already did measure actually, and it's a decent size. So it'll be 3 by 4, and whatever extra it gets for being attached, and then a border around the entire thing until I get to the size I need for Project Linus. And yeah, hopefully this one will go off in, say, maybe early fall to Project Linus. I just found out that she's now going to be looking for a lot of baby blankets as well, and particularly the smaller ones. So that leads me into a whole other thing. We are moving, maybe. We've wanted to move for a while now, and we did a little bit of sort of investigating last year in the early summer, and it didn't really lead anywhere. So this year we're taking it a little bit more seriously. It's kind of specific areas we're looking at, so it's not going to happen overnight. It could happen in a month, it could happen in 2 years. So because of that, we're doing a lot of stuff here to prepare. And we are very lucky to have a Value Village right across the street from us. So we're able to get rid of the things we haven't been using. And I have had to completely change my approach in my office/yarn room. And for listing purposes, if we ever do get to go and actually sell our house. So because of that, I've had to strategically pack up all my yarn. And when I say all my yarn, I've literally packed up about 80% of my yarn. What I'll do is, I have quite a bit more work to do in the office before it's ready to go. But when it's ready to go, I will take a little video clip in there. And the reason I don't record in there is because with my desk in there for work, the room's really small. So it's hard for me to get the camera in a good spot where I can still show things and record. And I had some feedback that people couldn't see the items that I was showing in that setup. So I have not been recording in there. But when it's all sort of set up again, I will try to go in there and at least take some video, if not do an actual full video in there, so you guys can see how we've figured it out. So basically everything went into storage, it's all labeled, and it's in the basement, which I don't get to. I have myself a list of everything that's in sort of the individual storage containers. And if worst came to worst and I really needed something that I didn't leave out, then hubby could grab it for me. But the yarns that I did leave out, I was very strategic about so that I can continue on with what I'm doing. And that led to some of what happened this month. And yeah, so we'll just see how it goes from there. The baby blankets are going to be great because I have a lot of baby yarns that, or yarns I've geared or thought of more for baby blankets that hopefully I will be able to use up now. Some of them are like just 2 skeins that I didn't think would be quite big enough for a baby blanket, but for what they need for the smaller ones, I think it now will work. So that's going to be great. And I've left myself out enough things that I still have blanket projects that I can get done and sets that I can get done. I haven't left myself out much else. I left myself out some yarn I want to make my mom something for Mother's Day with. But yeah, so we'll see how it goes. I left out my Premier bobbins and I didn't have an exact plan for those. So that gives me some leeway. I was talking last month that I want to make my girlfriend something for her birthday. So that's some leeway there with some still nice colored yarn to use. But the majority, like I would say more than 80% of my yarn is no longer in the yarn room. Anyway, it has been a whirlwind. It has been very busy as a result, and it has led to a month of very mindless crochet because that's what I needed. And so we will get back to it and we'll go back to some clips. Let's have a look. Hey everyone. Today is Monday, March the 11th. And I was on Jada and Stitch's Monday morning live today, as I usually am. And there was a Fair Isle square done for a 4-leaf clover, and I did mine as a dishcloth. So I was just using some Burnout Handicrafter cotton and a 5mm crochet hook. And those are the 2 yarns right there. Yeah, that was fun. So I'm just going to give it to hubby. And he always likes a little scrubby to go with. So I just whipped this guy up. And I just held the yarn double and then crocheted a little border around it with the darker green color. And I based that off of a granny square. So
a regular first round granny followed by 5 shells in each corner and a slip stitch into the middle, double crochet from the row below, and then again, so 5 across here, slip stitch, 5 across here, slip stitch, and so on. And I just made myself a little stem by chaining up about 5 and back single crochets down and slip stitching there, and that was just a little thing I whipped up to go with. And I used a 8mm hook for the scrubby part. Back to our regularly scheduled programming. Hey everyone, we're gonna call this Nothing Ventured, Nothing Gained. I think it was like 13 or 15 of these granny squares. It's homespun mill ends and homespun scraps I had from several years ago. And I love it so much, but I'm not using it. So I wanted to make this scarf turn into a hat and scarf for the shoebox charity. And I was really lucky that I actually seamed them with a different color. And I'm going to be a little bit strategic about where I cut the edge here, because I'm going to use some of this trim yarn that was around the entire thing to finish the scarf again at the bottom. But yeah, and then I'm going to try to turn 3 squares I have. It's a little precarious where I'm sitting right now, but the 3 squares I have that I'm taking off, I want to turn them into a hat somehow. And I do have some homespun yarn. I don't have anything that's jumping out to me in these colors. Something fairly close maybe. So I'm going to do my best to make this into a set for the Shoebox Charity for March. Just going to pull some of this up so you can see. Look at all this. Anyway, wish me luck. You know what they say? Nothing ventured, nothing gained. And I would rather someone be warm and cozy next winter because I did this than have it just sit in my cupboard not being used. Hello everyone, step 1 accomplished. It was so much easier than I thought. I was able to get all that yarn out and I've already used a small piece. And we have a single crochet seam added to that last square where I took them apart. And except for the fact that I had to put some pretty hefty knots in because the attaching yarn that was left over was pretty small, you wouldn't even know, side to side, and it was super easy. I didn't have to do much at all. And I still have 12 squares on this scarf after removing 3, so it's still very substantial. And now I'm on to trying to turn these 3 that are apart into a hat. Wish me luck. Hey everyone, so the hat is coming along. I'm keeping these little strands here to make myself realize that's my inside, not my outside. It's a little easier to tell by leaving those there, but I have been able to come around and do a row of double crochets in the existing yarn color and then pick up this other homespun I had, and you can see, or you can't see because of all the color. It's a little hard to see all this texture here, but these are post stitches, and it shows a lot more in real life than it does on the camera, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm happy with that. And this is going to be the back of the hat, and I'll show you why. Wow! Look, so I did have this one square. All these grannies were scrap grannies, and in terms of, except for this color, that was intentional, but the yarn that I still have that I was able to grab for this trim here is right here. So I'm gonna call that the center of the hat. I mean, whoever ends up with the hat will do what they do. And now that I have this nice brim going, the hat's kind of nice and deep at the top too, so I will try to pull that in a little bit with some stitches and then cinch it probably. And I will see how it looks, and we'll do one last clip and we'll call it a set. As promised, one last clip. That is the top of the hat, and it cinched in so nicely. Same concept. I came around and did a bunch of double crochets, and then I did 2 rounds of double crochet 2-togethers to make it nice and tight. And then I just weaved my yarn strand in there all the way around to cinch it up, and it really is cinching up nicely because of that. So I have the scarf inside it now, but I hopefully will show them together at the end of the month anyway. But yes, by destroying that scarf, by taking 3 squares off of that scarf and making them into a hat, I now have a set and a scarf that is probably still a super scarf, just not way too long. And sneak peek, something else happened as a result.
a little bit design happy right now. Back to our regularly scheduled programming. Okay, so we're gonna start with the smaller things. So basically in this bucket, I have any kind of hat or scarf that was made on its own as a solo that I wanted to make into a set for the charity. And so there's still some in here that I haven't gotten to yet. How did this all start? So I showed you the clip already, and I can actually wear this one. If it shows on camera is another question, but so we still have a nice healthy scarf here. I'll put this down on this one side. I had so much fun making this. I made this when we were playing the Granny Square game on the Jade and Stitches lives a couple of years ago. So the grannies were all made using scraps of different Lion Brand homespun yarns, and I had a whole bunch that were bought as mill ends in this tealy color, we'll call it, denim-y teal on the outside. That's blowing out in the camera. It's not quite as bright as it looks. And then you saw in the clip what I did, and here's the hat. Ta-da! So this will be a great set, and I've had this on for what, 45 seconds, and it is warm. So it is coming off immediately, but there's my little linking up of those yarns and making it work. But you know, there's a lot of that this one color I had left in the Lion Brand homespun in this all over the place. So I'm really happy to turn it into something that will make someone warm next winter. Okay, let's see what's next. So something else I spent some time on this month was designing a vest out of all the different Red Heart Granny Square yarn squares I've made so far and plotting out the color. And it took me quite a while. It took me 3 or 4 hours to come up with a pattern that I liked. And then I promptly decided that I wasn't going to do it. I won't wear those colors. They're just not my colors. And so if I'm patient enough until I get enough of the black colorways, I think it's a better strategy for me. I like the idea of putting black on the white colorways, but anyway, I just decided not to go that route and I did something else instead. So here's another clip. Based on like what I was doing, taking apart that other project that you've already seen some clips of, I decided to use some of my Red Heart all-in-one Granny Square squares. And in this case, it is all the colors I have of the soft white, citrus twist, frigid, amethyst, and hot stuff with some black sparkle. The sparkle is actually gold in this, which kind of looks very nice with the reds and these colors and these colors. It's morning, I'm tired. I haven't had coffee yet. I like how it looks with those. This is the cowl, it's 4 squares. And this is the hat. It is also 4 squares. So I'm liking that as a set. Very cheerful, but yet a little bit of a bling for some style. Yeah, so I did trim, here's the cowl of the first one. All of these got an extra row of white in a Bernat white sparkle yarn I had. So it's kind of bringing the sparkle in very subtly first. And there's one in each of the 4 colorways I have, which is frigid, amethyst, hot stuff, and citrus twist. And then I use the black and gold sparkle at the top and the bottom, and this is the cowl. And I'm not going to try putting the hat on again because I'm melting. And this is the hat. So I have been very pleased with how these have been going in terms of decreasing. And it started, one sec. There, better just laying it on me than trying to have it on. It started with that last one I had on in the homespun. But whenever I've gone to decrease a crown of a hat in the past, I've always found it very bulky, especially where you're joining the yarns together in the very middle. And I don't know what I'm doing that's making it not as bulky, but I'm so happy about it. I'm just doing it. So these ones, I continue in the granny stitch for 1 round. Then I take all of those individual stitches, no chains, just to already tighten it up a bit. Then I take all those individual stitches and just do double crochet 2 together. And then if I want, I do it again, sometimes depending on how much length I still want for the hat. And then once I get it nice and close, I'll just weave it in on that last round there. And it's not as bad in terms of a cinched in brim. I keep saying brim for that part, a cinched in crown. I just don't like when it's got all the bulk that it almost feels hard in the middle when you're sewing it together. And so I've stayed away from those kind of hat crowns for that reason. I always make my hats from the top down. So that was one set, and here's the other. So I thought, well, what if I didn't do all the different colors? And I did one using just the frigid colorway with some Mary Maxim sparkle teal colorway, and four squares again. So for this one, I opted to do a final round of granny stitch with the teal. I did some single crochet to join the squares in the closest two loops. So the back loop of one side and the front loop of the other side, to give it a little texture and space in there when you seam it down. Also, it's very easy to tell the front from the back with that texture of the single crochet joint. And for this hat, I only did 3 squares, which means I needed a little extra width. So I did a half double crochet on the sides where I was joining. So on this side of this square, I did half double. On this side of this square, I did half double. Then I seamed it up. Everywhere there's a joint. And then I just still did some post stitches at the bottom. It can show the best on this color finally of all of the hats I've made recently. And still the top cinched up nicely. So this one also looks good at the top. And this one I intentionally made it a little bit smaller, so I only used the 3 squares on it. I added a little bit of width to the square first, and this one got its extra round in the Mary Maxim teal sparkle for each square, and then the extra, right? So making sure, yeah, I did an extra round on each granny square in the teal sparkle for both projects for this. And so you can see how like different they look in terms of their brightness, in terms of like the mood or what you're going for in terms of this kind of a project. So I was very happy to have used up some more of my squares for some charity sets. Yeah, so using up those squares led to making some more squares, and that led to another tale of woe. So I finished, I guess it's my first one. I finished my first skein of the frigid colorway. Here's one of them. And here's the tale of woe. Can you spot that? I think you can. One square, and it wasn't like the very end square or anything like that, has some real dye issues in terms of its consistency. Hey, maybe it's best if I just leave them over here. So this is correct, this is incorrect, and it's not happening only in one round. So that's rather disappointing. And I was looking for a lot of the videos of people using the squares in the beginning to see how they were making out with it and before I had the yarn and stuff. But I haven't actually stumbled onto anybody saying anything about problems like this with it. Now, they tell you you're gonna get 14 and this is still 15, so it's the 15th one that is messed up on this skein, but there it is. So yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen a lot. And also in the same skein, but in this square, a different square, the white was messed up quite a bit, where I could tell by looking at it, it was a lot thinner. So I cut it out and I used it the way I'd rather use it, because you can see that I'm tightening up quite a bit on my end rounds so that I have a lot of extra. I like to have that sort of reinforcement of the granny squares, and they're not too floppy on the ends. I would do that normally anyway. But yeah, that was not a pleasant experience, but I am finished that skein of the frigid colorway, and I did a few in the newest one I got, which is a black one, which is called Carnation Code. This one feels a lot more like regular old Red Heart Super Saver to me than some of the other ones, but that's okay because I know it will soften up nicely. And I was using up some squares this month, so I thought I would continue to make some. And I just like having them on my cart, because when I am not feeling like thinking too much, I can just make some squares. And I had ordered another one, I think it's Hyperviolet, and then I never got it sent to me. So all of a sudden, somewhere in the beginning of March, mid-March-ish, Amazon started to have some of the yarn here in Canada, the Red Heart All-in-One Granny Square yarn, in 3 packs for a very similar price point to what Walmart's selling it for. And of course it varies because how Amazon does their prices, nothing's the same price, right? So they pretty much have all the colorways on there. The last time I looked a couple of days ago, in Canada, for the same stuff we could have got at Walmart, as long as you're willing to get it in a 3-pack. The carnation coat is one of the only black ones that I didn't see before this. And the rest of them are all either soft white or Aran. I'm seeing stuff that's in Ontario and available in Ontario. Anyway, so I guess Amazon's sort of saving me from myself because they still haven't shipped it to me, nor have they canceled it. I don't know. But the one I really want is Cyberleaf, and that one has never been available to me here. And I noticed Your Inspirations put out two new colorways. I had seen them ages before they sent an email around that they were there. And they've just always had the X, like they're not available, at least on the Canadian side. So we'll see what happens with that yarn over time. Given the current project of getting the house ready to list if we ever find a place to move to, buying yarn is not a priority right now. That is one of the yarns though I left out for myself, and some complementary colors for trimming and potentially joining depending on what kind of projects I want to make with them going forward. But yeah, so that's a little update on that for this time. And we're getting to the end, I think. I got a couple blankets to show you in a sec. But before that, good morning, everyone. Today is Monday, March the 25th. My coffee is on and I'm about to go to work in a little less than an hour. I wanted to show you that I have another cozy set for the Shoebox Charities as a result of a scarf that was already made years ago and never worn. So this is the second scarf of mine that I had kept because I loved it and never got a chance to wear it. And this is just a C2C scarf, and it is in, I think they were called Bernat Big Stripes, and they came in cakes, and they've been long discontinued, I believe. And I did a corner to corner scarf in these lovely colors, some of that ice blue, cream, charcoal gray, and regular gray. So I had some yarn in this color here, which is like a charcoal black, charcoal gray, however you want to say it. Black, but it's got like some white yarn spun on the outside of it, and it makes it look a little different, and it matches pretty perfectly. So I did myself a corner to corner beanie. So here's the scarf. It is so nice and drapey. I must have used a nice big hook with this. It's been a year since I've made this and I've never gotten to wear it. I kept it because I loved it so much, but I've never worn it. So I took it out of my this belongs to me pile, and I made a corner to corner hat using the same sort of principle I was using for the granny squares. So this started off as just like a rectangular piece of fabric that I seamed up. I think there was a clip of that part. There's the seam at the on that side there. You can barely see it right there, which is perfect because it shows less in real life. And then I used the same principle to do the crown, and I put post stitches on the brim and black on black here, so I'll put it over with this. Yeah, so now another set for the Shoebox Charity is all ready to go. The last hat I made went with a triangle scarf I made late in 2023, probably November or December. You may have seen this before. Crazy looking patterning. It looks so funny on camera. It doesn't look as crazy in real life as it does on camera, which is fine. And here's the hat to go with. The pooling is just crazy. So anyway, this is a fresh beanie made in March. Just a regular spiral beanie with some of that gray sparkle to complement the scarf. This is Patons Canadiana. It's a nice soft yarn. I got it on clearance at Len's Mills probably 3 or 4 years ago. So it's nice to use some of that up. Okay, I think we got a couple of clips of when I was starting this blanket up. Good morning, everybody. Today is Sunday, March the 10th, and I am working on a scrap GAN straight granny stitch blanket for Project Linus, and I'm about halfway there. I was just measuring it, and it's coming to about 34 inches, and I have black to do here to officially end that next set of 12 rows. So basically the only rules are this is all scraps. A lot of the scraps are larger scraps, and I'm doing 2 row sets. Started off with a chain, and I worked half doubles into the chain, and then I'm doing 2 rows of granny stitch for each color. And the reason you're seeing so much of this tealy jade green type color is because I had all these little minis from Lion Brand. Priscilla actually gave them to me in a swap, and they measure 30 grams, or they weigh 30 grams. So I'm able to get two sets of two rows for each one, and I'm just moving where it is in the set of 5. So I do 5 sets of 2 rows, so 10 rows total before I hit the black on the 12th rows, 11th and 12th rows. So yeah, so on this time it came in at 4, and I just changing where it lands. So sometimes they're a lot closer together than others. Continue to separate each set of 10 rows with the black, and then just mix it up, because some of these were only enough to go in once, like the yellow. I'm not going to be able to redo the yellow. The orange, I'm not going to be able to, the bright orange, I'm not going to be able to redo that. But a lot of them I can redo them, and I can just mix up where they land to have more chaos. I've been doing organized chaos, I suppose. I've been doing my ends as I go. So every set or so of 12 rows, I'm doing my ends. Some of these balls were from old, what do they call that? Tangled bags of yarn from Cambridge Fibers. I got once and I would never get them again. Too much work. But anyway, so that's why there's some extra ends in here, but also they're true scraps. So if they were true scraps and they had extra ends, that happened as well. Anyway, I'm having fun with it. I love having all the extra color. I love the not thinking, and I am well over 40 inches wide, which is the requirement, and I am going to be at least 70, probably longer. I'm going to put a very minimalistic border on it. I'm going to come back to the green, and I'm going to carry the green as a granny stitch row all the way up the side once, and then just do a single crochet border around the whole thing. And that will be that. And then I will make another, because I will still have more scraps, but I won't have as many colors. And I have a whole bunch of pink scraps that I didn't include in this one that will go into the other one. And there's a variety of shades of pink. So I'm having fun with my scrap blankets for Project Linus, both working on them and planning them. Okay, back to our regularly scheduled programming. So I have some pictures that I'll pop up. This is fairly big. I'm not going to try to do the disappearing act. It's not actually even quite fitting on the camera. But this one was a specific layout of 2 rows of each of the colors, and then inserting the black at a predictable point each time, which was the 11th and 12th row, and then of each set of 12. And then the teal just floats. It floats anywhere from position 1 to position 5. So I'm thinking of it as 6 sets of 2 rows. And the first 5 sets are color, and the 6th set is always black. And so it just created this pattern, and there is for sure a picture of it. I'll put it at the end of the video so you can look at it for a bit if you like. And I was able to use up a lot in here, and then still had quite a bit of all of the different scraps. I was trying to keep it bright, because Project Linus asks for the blankets to be cheerful without it screaming female. And that's what I did for that one. And then I hadn't intended to do this, but I thought I'd start it just because it was a nice mindless project, and I really needed mindless this month. So there's another one. And if it hadn't been for a little bit of a problem I had yesterday, it probably also would have been finished. This one I did, this is the bottom. Let's go from the top. Okay, this is where I started it. This one I did it with, so it's kind of upside down if you're thinking of the stitches, but this is where I started it from. I did 3 rows in 2 colors, and then 1 row in a color. 3 rows in 2 colors, and then 1 row in a color. So if I thought of it as sets of 7 rows, 2 sets of 3 and 1 set of 1, or you could just think of it like 2 sets of 3 and then just a single row. And this one, there is nothing in it that is sort of a break, like the black creates like a break in your crazy colors. So there's no pattern that way. It's just that I have the gray as a neutral. Actually, I'm going to flip it the other direction, because that's the direction that stitches. Ooh. This one I'll show you. I'll try and show you the whole thing, because I don't even have any pictures of this yet. I was still working on it last night. So there's the beginning. And then the next section, and then the next section, and then the top section which I'll just lie on me for now. Yeah, so the tan and the gray were my two neutrals, and they got repeated every 3, 4, 5 sets depending on how I felt like. And I was just looking at the yarn and making sure that I had enough to get 3 rows, and strategically putting things that way. I tried to have a lot of like breaks between lights and darks and change that up throughout. But yeah, this one turned out great too. And also there's a few colors here. Because of packing everything away, I wanted to make sure I had enough to finish my mile of minute blanket that's already started, but I don't have all my strips done on that one. Because if you remember, I already finished one this year and I used all the completed strips, or most of them, for that. So there's only, I think there's only 9 left, and I need about 13 or 14 to make it wide enough for a Project Linus blanket. So I put certain colors in this and then promptly put those skeins over with the mile a minute strips, so that I knew because I knew there's enough yarn in those to, you know, be able to finish those strips. But all of these are still scraps. A lot of them were hardy scraps. Like I can pick on this gold right here. There's still probably 100 grams left in the skein from this gold of a 200 gram skein, but all of these were started. None of these were just only used for this blanket. So I don't know what happened, but I was miscounting on this green. I was almost finished. And when I was getting towards the end of the blanket, I thought, why don't I just finish it the way I started it? So from that royal blue, blue, gray, gold, green, and then it's a very light pink. That's the beginning of the blanket. This one I couldn't repeat because I only had enough for the one, so I just picked something fairly close. But I thought, why don't I just finish it that way? So you see I have the royal blue, the gray, the gold, and a different pink, and then the green. Well, I was halfway done my border and I realized I had only done 2 rows of the green instead of 3. And I had done the same thing on the very light pink that I was gonna take all the way around, which is why it's sitting right there, because I caked it all up after I ripped it all out. So I had gotten, I guess 2 rows of the pink and then all the way around the blanket once. And I was like, oh, I made a mistake. And it was just frustrating enough that I thought, you know what? It's no big whoop. I'm just gonna take it out and I'll fix it. So I fixed it to the point where I put the green back to 3 rows. And so I have to finish the border now. But I think I'm gonna try doing it a different way. I don't know how well this is gonna work, but I'm gonna try starting down here and go all the way around and back and all the way around to get my 3 rows at the top that way, and then put a border on it. So instead of 1 blanket for Project Linus this month, we have almost 2, and we'll be in the same spot next month as we were to start this video, and I'll only show you a little clip of the border or a picture of the border next month to show you that it's all done. I'm actually planning to make a call to the lady that is the coordinator for Peel Region Project Linus, because I think I will have 6 or 7 blankets to give her soon. This has been perfect for me for this month because it's just granny stitch back and forth. I get all this color. I get to have fun choosing out of my bucket, which is right here, by the way. Here are my bigger scraps. That's gonna make a lot of noise if I try to take it out right now, but the smaller ones are underneath this plastic bag. Grab one here. And then there's some that are the fuller skeins in that plastic bag. But when I'm sitting on the couch, I can perch this so that I can see all the colors, and then I can choose based on how much are in them, because some of them are quite small. Oh, and then one other thing. I have a magic ball on the go for the first time since 2021, I guess. So I think I was making my magic balls in 2021 and I used them in 2022. I did not use any in 2023. So now that I've made those 2 scrap yarns, this magic ball was, I don't know, it was pretty tiny before. It fit in the palm of my hand, and anything that was small enough is now going in here. And my plan for this is to actually not try to make blankets out of them this time. I'm gonna make a scarf. And then I'll be able to make a hat in a solid color to go with as one of the sets. So this is another one. I think I felt like I had pink in there too recently, so I didn't want to put it in just yet. But I am a little bit strategic so that when I get to using the yarn, that the colors don't, like you don't hit 3 different pinks in a row, for example. So I like to sort of spread it out that way a little bit. But yeah, so I think that was a lot of crochet for March. It might have been a little bit boring, but it worked for me for what I needed. And I think I did get a couple rows in on that car crochet project last weekend as well, and we will see. So for April, I actually am going to make a little sort of 3/4 length or elbow length cardie for my mom out of some Lion Brand Comfy Cotton Blend for Mother's Day. And it'll be just the regular simple style sweater I like to make. The only difference will be it will be short sleeved. So that's one thing I have in mind to do for April so that it's ready in plenty of time for Mother's Day. And then we'll see what else. I'm still trying to like wrap my head around what exactly left out. I think instead of big blankets in April, I'm going to concentrate on the little, I think they want some preemie and preemie blankets and maybe newborn for the hospitals. One of the hospitals is asking for that. And that will give me something to work on without it having to be big projects. And it will let me dig into some of that baby yarn that's just sort of been sitting around. So April 1st is Monday, so that means I have a few days to just sort of get myself situated and figure out what I'm going to be working on, finish up this blanket, and then the square or the crochet along will come out next Friday, and I'll go from there. Anyway, guys, I hope you're all doing well. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I will talk to you soon. Have a great month. Happy crochet. Bye.